The dramatic Battle of Teutoburg Forest, Rome's greatest defeat. Expanded analysis. Historical context, Rome's ambitions in Germania. The Augustan vision. By the turn of the 1st century AD, Emperor Augustus sought to consolidate Rome's northern frontiers by transforming Germania Magna, modern-day northern Germany and the Netherlands, into a formal province. This ambition was part of a broader strategy to secure natural boundaries, such as the Rhine and Danube rivers, and integrate barbarian territories into Rome's civilizing mission, Pax Romana. Roman legions had already subdued tribes west of the Rhine under generals like Drusus, 1229 BC, who campaigned as far as the Elbe River. Publius Quinctilius Varus, a patrician with experience governing Syria, was appointed governor of Germania in 7th AD. His mandate was to impose Roman administration, collect taxes, and adjudicate disputes. However, Varus misread the political landscape. He treated Germania as a pacified territory, imposing heavy tributes and Roman legal codes on tribes accustomed to autonomy. His arrogance and lack of cultural sensitivity alienated even Rome's allies, such as the Cherusci, whose nobles had initially cooperated with Rome. Germania was not a unified nation, but a patchwork of clans and tribes, including the Cherusci, Marsi, Chatti, and Bructeri. These groups shared linguistic and cultural ties, but were often rivals. Arminius, a Cheruscan prince, exploited this fragmentation by presenting himself as a mediator. His Roman education and military service gave him credibility, enabling him to unite tribes under a common cause, expelling the occupiers. Arminius, c. 1817 BC to 21 AD, was born into the Cherusci nobility. As a child, he was sent to Rome as a hostage, a common practice to ensure tribal compliance. Raised in the imperial household, he received a Roman education, attained equestrian rank, and served as an auxiliary commander in the Roman army. His insider knowledge of Roman tactics, logistics, and politics made him uniquely dangerous. By 9 AD, Arminius had gained Varus's trust, even dining at his table. Meanwhile, he secretly negotiated with tribal leaders, framing rebellion as a winnable cause. His most critical ally was Segestus, a pro-Roman Cheruscan noble who warned Varus of Arminius's treachery. Varus dismissed these warnings, believing Arminius's loyalty was assured by his Roman upbringing. The ambush, tactics, terrain, and timeline. The deceptive rebellion. In late summer 9th AD, Arminius fabricated news of a local uprising near the Weser River, urging Varus to divert his legions from their fortified summer camp to quash it. Varus took the bait, marching 3 legions, Sewaint, the 18, and Night, 6 auxiliary cohorts, and a baggage train of civilians, totaling 15,000 to 20,000 people, into the dense, unmapped forests of northwestern Germania. The kill zone Arminius chose the Teutoburg Forest, near modern Kalkries, for its narrow paths, swampy ground, and thick foliage, terrain that neutralized Roman advantages in open-field combat. Germanic warriors, numbering roughly 10,000–15,000, concealed themselves behind earthen walls and tree lines. Day 1, the Trap Springs. As the Roman column stretched over 15–20 kilometers, the vanguard encountered felled trees and makeshift barriers. Germanic warriors launched hit-and-run attacks from the flanks, targeting stragglers and supply carts. The Romans, unable to form their signature testudo, tortoise formations, camped overnight in a clearing, hoping to regroup. Day 2, chaos and desperation. The next morning, Varus ordered a retreat toward the Roman fortress of Aliso. However, torrential rain turned paths into quagmires, bogging down wagons and artillery. Germanic forces intensified attacks, using long spears framing and short swords to pick off isolated groups. Roman attempts to counterattack failed due to disorganization and fatigue. Day 3, the final massacre. By the 3rd day, the legions were decimated. Varus, realizing escape was impossible, committed suicide by falling on his sword, a Roman general's last act of honor. Survivors were enslaved, crucified, or sacrificed to Germanic gods. The historian Cassius Dio wrote, "They cut out the tongues of some captives, sewing their mouths shut as a grim mockery of Roman rhetoric." News of the disaster shattered Rome. Suetonius records Augustus tearing his clothes and crying, "Quinctilius Varus, give me back my legions." The loss of 3 elite legions forced Augustus to abandon Germania, stationing legions permanently along the Rhine. Tiberius's nephew, Germanicus Julius Caesar, led punitive expeditions to restore Roman honor. In 15 AD, he recovered 2 of the lost legionary eagles and buried the remains of Varus's army in a solemn ceremony. Tacitus describes mounds of bleached bones and splintered weapons, with soldiers weeping for kinsmen and friends. However, Germanicus's victories were Pyrrhic. Tiberius recalled him to Rome, declaring Germania too costly to tame. The Rhine became Rome's limes, frontier, shaping Europe's cultural divide. Latinized Gaul, west, versus Germanic tribes, east. This boundary influenced medieval kingdoms and modern nation-states, with the Rhine remaining a symbolic border between Roman and barbarian Europe. Archaeology, the Kalkri's rediscovery of the battlefield. For centuries, Teutoburg's location was debated until British amateur archaeologist Tony Clun, using metal detectors, uncovered Roman coins and sling bullets near Kalkri's in 1987. Subsequent excavations revealed a 500-meter-long earthen wall built by Germanic tribes to funnel Romans into a kill zone. Mass graves with skeletal remains showing blunt force trauma and decapitation. Roman military equipment, including a cavalry mask and lead sling bullets inscribed with Var, likely referencing Varus. Forensic Insights analysis of the bones revealed horrific injuries, skulls crushed by clubs, limbs hacked off, and evidence of ritualistic dismemberment. The site's topography, a narrow pass between a hill and swamp, confirmed ancient descriptions of the terrain as a death trap. Roman historians like Tacitus hailed Arminius as liberator of Germania, though his legacy faded after his assassination by rival tribes in 21 AD. Medieval Germans, influenced by Christian chroniclers, largely forgot him until the Renaissance. During the Napoleonic Wars and German unification 1871, Arminius was rebranded as Hermann der Cherusker, a proto-nationalist hero. The Hermannsdenkmal, Hermann Monument, a 53-meter-tall statue completed in 1875 near Detmold, depicts him holding aloft a sword inscribed, "German unity is my strength." Nazi propaganda later co-opted Arminius as an Aryan icon, though post-war Germany recontextualized him as a symbol of European unity. Today, the battle is commemorated in museums, reenactments, and literature, reflecting its enduring resonance as a clash of civilizations. Strategic lessons and historical debate. Why Rome lost cultural arrogance. Varus ignored warnings of betrayal, assuming Germanic tribes were incapable of coordinated resistance. Tactical inflexibility. Roman heavy infantry relied on open battles. The forest nullified their discipline and artillery. Logistical overextension. The baggage train slowed the column, making it vulnerable to ambush. Controversies. Exact death toll. Estimates range from 16,000 to 20,000 Romans killed, but civilian casualties, servants, traders remain unquantified. Arminius's motives. Was he a freedom fighter or an opportunist seeking personal power? Ancient sources are divided. Conclusion. Echoes of Teutoburg. The Battle of Teutoburg Forest was more than a military defeat. It was a psychological rupture in Rome's narrative of invincibility. For Germania, it preserved a decentralized tribal identity that evolved into medieval kingdoms like the Franks and Saxons. The battle's legacy endures as a cautionary tale of imperial hubris and the unpredictable power of resistance, reminding us that even the mightiest empires are vulnerable to the forests and the fury of those they underestimate.